What is good, everybody? It just rules back again with another video. Around 1 year ago on the channel, I made a video talking about how I would book the 2023 WWE Draft. It was a very well-liked video. And now we're here one crazy year later. We're going to do the same thing, but obviously in the year 2024. This video will be me talking about how I would book the 2024 WWE Draft. Now, I'll say several things. I got several disclaimers. I want to put a timestamp on when the actual draft starts if you just want to jump right into that. But several disclaimers. Thing one. I've been on record and a handful of my videos talking about I don't think they should do a draft this year. I just think that they should do some trades. I think the way the rosters are set up now are somewhat fine. There's some changes. Those changes will be made through trades. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. They're doing a draft. That's thing one. Thing two. While the rules of the draft don't ever really change, I'm not going by it. Typically, and how they've been doing it the past couple years, it's a two-night draft. They split the pool in half, do half of it on SmackDown, the other half on Raw. As of right now, we don't know what those pools look like, and I'm not waiting around to do that because by the time that happens, it's going to be the draft, the actual draft. Y'all ain't going to care what I got to say. So, in this video, I have 20 names that I will suggest for Raw, or 20 draft picks for Raw and SmackDown. That is the best way that I could do it, because the other way I don't really like. And thing three, the main reason that I was kind of getting into it, and another reason I was saying that I don't think they should do a draft, is they've been talking a lot about the free agent talents that each brand has signed. Like, for example, like SmackDown signed Braun Breaker, they signed Tiffany Stratton, they signed Jade Cargill. Hypothetically, are they going to be like null and void and being in the draft? Like, if that's the case, it's going to be too confusing. So, for the case of this, a lot of people are involved. The people that are not involved, I will get to in the very end, and I'll make a very obscure reference once I get to it. That'll also be timestamped. But let's get into this mock draft. Like I said, 20 Raw draft picks, 20 SmackDown draft picks. I will tell you, I don't plan on going that long with the explanations for each, but we shall see. And there are some roster changes, so this draft is not useless. So, draft pick number one. The number one overall pick for SmackDown. You should be the consensus. I'm trying to also use a lot of sports references because it's a draft season. NFL draft about to take place. NBA draft lottery like a month or so out. The WWE draft, obviously. Number one pick. The undisputed WWE champion. I don't think they're calling him an undisputed WWE Universal Champion anymore. Cody Rhodes. He's been appearing on SmackDown a lot lately. He's going to be appearing a lot more in this draft situation. And I anticipate him appearing a lot more in real life because he's the WWE champion. So number one pick, Cody Rhodes. Pretty simple. Number one pick for Raw. Great value. Because it's a 5-4-1. The Judgment Day. They've been running roughshod overall the past 2 years and have become more dominant now with the World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. As of Monday, it would have made a lot more sense with the Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, but the title's vacated. We'll see what happens down the line. Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and JD McDonough. It just makes sense. Number two, to have the Women's Champion on SmackDown, Bayley stays on the brand. Number two for Raw, Drew McIntyre was World Champion for about 5 minutes. He probably is looking for redemption for that. Number three for SmackDown, staying on the brand, Randy Orton. Number three, staying on Raw, Jey Uso, who has broke out ever since being traded to Raw last year, so let's keep that going. Number four, Damage Control. It's going to be, I would tell you now, the way the women's division is, I don't think a lot of change is going to be taking place in this mock draft and probably in the real life draft. That's just something that we'll have to come into down the line, so I wanted to make that note right away. Now, number four, for Raw, keeping the Intercontinental Championship on the brand, Sami Zayn. Number five, for each SmackDown and Raw. For SmackDown side, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. For Raw side, Awesome Truth. So both tag champions stay on each brand, even though they changed the Raw Tag Championships. I fully imagine they'll end up changing these SmackDown ones at some point. Now, here are two more roster changes that I can see taking place. At number six, Imperium, Gunther, and his group. Y'all know me. If y'all watch my channel, I put up put over Gunther any chance that I get. And I was very heavy on pushing him being the next World Heavyweight Champion. Just give the guy any gold, and I'd love to see him go after the WWE Championship. Now, for Raw, at number 6, Bianca Belair. Now, the main reason I am suggesting this is that she has not been the Women's World Championship. If you want to go down the lineage and say, well, she's been Raw Women's Champion, I'm not counting that. The Women's World Championship, and she has accomplished a ton since being on the main roster. This is one more thing that she needs to do. Number 7 for SmackDown, Naomi. She's returned to the SmackDown brand. Let's keep her there. Number 7. Now, I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about free agent signings and Jade Cargill. But, just like that, it changes because I've drafted Jade Cargill to Raw. I could see a potential alliance and tag team title run with Bianca Belair coming to fruition. That is such a difficult word to pronounce. And that is what I see happening here. 8 for SmackDown, the OWO. 8 for Raw, a roster change that I would be heavily into. Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Their group is named The Pride. I don't like saying that. That's why I said their other names. But I would be very interested in seeing Bobby Lashley go after the World Heavyweight Championship and the Street Profits go after these Tag Team Championships. It has been quite a while since the Street Profits have been Tag Team Champions. Number 9, staying on SmackDown, Braun Breaker. I think either brand that has Braun Breaker, he's going to break through with. Even though I did not mean that pun intended, but you get the point. Number 9, a man that recently returned to Raw and competed on Raw and wants the Intercontinental Championship, Sheamus. It's weird because when I was going through the roster on WWE.com, I still had him on SmackDown. He competed on Raw. They are even confused. They confuse me a lot, but Sheamus is on Raw. Number 10, LA Knight. Now, you could say he's fallen a little bit off. I wouldn't say that because he's going to get some chances throughout, but the man he's been feuding with for quite a while, and they've got at least one more match in them. Number 10 for Raw, AJ Styles, another man that I'd like to see go after the World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be interesting because I definitely think he's going to be going after the WWE Championship very soon, but Backlash is like the week of the draft, so the draft moves don't really matter until after Backlash. Number 11, an NXT call-up. I know Braun Breaker technically is, but he's been signed to the main roster. But another set right here. For SmackDown to draft Carmelo Hayes and Raw to draft Ilya Dragunov. Now, it is weird because, again, there's probably going to be NXT people eligible in this draft. The one certain one is Ilya Dragunov, which the one slight problem I have with that is he's the NXT champion. I would say more than likely by the time we get to the actual draft, he won't be NXT champion because he has a title match coming up. So that's why I could see this move happening. Number 12, staying on SmackDown, Solo Sikoa. I did not include Tama Tonga in this, but if you want to include him, you can. Because we have a special guest running in. Let's see if he's going to appear on the camera. Or is he going to pop up? There he is. You going to look? You going to look? That's my dog. I'm doing a draft, buddy. Number 12, another roster. He left. Number 12, Kevin Owens to Raw. Now, this one, again, is very interesting because he was on Raw with Sami Zayn. They had the tag team title run that kind of, I'm not going to say underwhelming. I think it's the best way to put it because they didn't know whether to have them on Raw and SmackDown because this is when they were unified titles. And it kind of seemed like a very forgettable run outside of the WrestleMania match. And then they lost the titles, and then Kevin Owens got shipped to SmackDown. And it's just kind of, I'm not going to say he's in no man's land, but the one thing that Kevin Owens has not done is be the World Heavyweight Champion. So if you've noticed that a lot of the roster changes that I have suggested for the Raw brand are people that have not been World Heavyweight Champion. Well, that has not been a lot, but Kevin Owens, I would like to see in that race. And even down the line, maybe reunite with Sami Zayn. And they have a dominant duo where Kevin Owens is World Champion, Sami Zayn's Intercontinental Champion. That's a wait-and-see situation. Number 13, Jimmy Uso. 13 for Raw, Liv Morgan. 14, both roster changes here. New Day going to SmackDown. Legado del Fantasma going to Raw. 15, DIY to SmackDown. 15. Now this one is a Twitter suggestion that I am heavily into, even though we have not seen it really come to life, but it's got a lot of potential. Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. Now, this is, again, I did not come up with this idea, but a lot of people were comparing Chad Gable and the Creed brothers to potentially being Team Angle 2.0. I would love that. I would love to see them dominate Raw. And the more interesting thing is, like, Team Angle in real life only lasted 3-4-ish months. It was like the end of December all the way to March because Kurt Angle got injured at WrestleMania. So he took time off, and then when he came back, they were no longer Team Angle. So I would like to see this come to life with Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. 16 for SmackDown, Ricochet, and 16 for Raw, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. So Raw will have a very good tag division, adding the Street Profits, Creed brothers, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, and Legado Fantasma. There's probably something else I'm forgetting. And the Judgment Day, even though they've had the tag titles a while and whatnot. There's a lot of members of the Judgment Day and included that. 17 for SmackDown, Andrade, while 17 for number Raw would be Bronson Reed. 18 for SmackDown, Shinsuke Nakamura. 18 for Raw, Nia Jax. 19, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell going to SmackDown. While another NXT call-up for Raw would be Dijak. I very much want to call him Donovan Dijak, but it's just Dijak now. The last draft picks, Tiffany Stratton staying on SmackDown, while Alba Fire and Isla Dawn go to Raw. So that is the mock draft portion of this. Now, wrapping this up, I also did not expect this video. I expected this video to be a lot longer. To be fair, once we got to the last 10 draft picks, I wasn't explaining that much, but it is what it is. The free agent section. Now, I'm trying to make note. A, I think my dog's going to make another run in. B, I'm trying to make note. So, back in 2002, when the inaugural WWE Draft took place, there's a top name not involved in the draft, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's actually a couple of top names. The other one to mention is Triple H. But with Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was not on TV during the time of the draft, but when he returned, they made a big deal of which brand are you going to sign with, Raw or SmackDown. He ended up signing with Raw. In the case of now, in real life, I know it's only been 2-ish weeks, but since WrestleMania, there's been some top talent that have not been involved on TV, and to be fair, we don't know when they'll return. So that is why, what we just went through this mock draft, there are several top names not mentioned, because now they are being mentioned. So the free agent portion, we have 5 names left to go through. The first of which has been the one that's appeared most recently, CM Punk. He signed with Raw. He's staying on the Raw brand. I imagine he wants that World Heavyweight Championship and maybe to get into mind of Drew McIntyre a little bit more. But we're keeping CM Punk on Raw. Becky Lynch. Now, there's not a lot of change I suggested with the SmackDown women's roster where Raw added Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I think that SmackDown should add Becky Lynch, while SmackDown also adding Seth Rollins. I think that down the line, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, while I was very against it because, like I said, we've already seen 3 matches between the two, and Cody won 3-0. I think that down the line, we'll have to see this match take place once again. And we just saw Seth have the World Heavyweight Championship for a very long time. Maybe it's time for a different direction on a different brand. Next, Logan Paul. Not the biggest Logan Paul fan. I've said it time and time again, but, you know, I've gotten to the point where I can at least talk about him and not hate. Even though what I'm about to say kind of sounds like hating. I would have him going to the Raw brand, but with the suggestion of him dropping the U.S. Championship to somebody on SmackDown. That way that SmackDown has the U.S. Championship and Raw has the IC title. But I felt that Raw kind of needs him a little bit more, even though he's been a free agent this whole time. And again, it just depends on what brand needs him is where he appears. And last but not least, Roman Reigns. I don't really see any need for him on Raw. I imagine, again, he wants to become undisputed WWE champion again, get revenge on Cody Rhodes, get revenge on Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown. Or you can just keep him as the ultimate free agent and have him appear on whatever brand you need. So now this is done. I have added this extra light and it's made it brighter. 10 times as sweatier. But this video's done. This is the 2024 mock draft. I just went through 20 draft picks that I have suggested. We'll see what happens down the line. And I more than likely will make a reaction, some type of reaction video to talk about the actual draft once it takes place. We got Backlash taking place as well. I will say, I did plan on making a video to talk about how I would book Backlash, but by the time I got to it, they had already started announcing stuff for it, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just leave it till next time. So I did put a lot of effort into this video. I spent a lot of time. I went through the WWE roster. I looked at the WWE roster page for like 2 to 3 hours, and I went through. I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind that. You know, fantasy booking. That's how you do it. You get the pen and paper. Here's the freaking pen. And the little highlights are the people that change brands. You know, you get an inside look. I'm just going to continue rambling, so I'm just going to shut up. I do appreciate you for watching this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.